Hey everyone, this is your OG, Original Gamer, and this is another Godforge video. Today we're going to be taking a quick look at the first synergy in Godforge, hopefully. We'll see. A pairing between one of the leaked starter champs from yesterday and plus another champ we've seen before, whose kit we've seen before. You are not going to want to miss this. It is going to help set you ahead in your gameplay. So without further ado, let's optimize. All right, so we we are going to take a really interesting look here. When we were watching the starter champs being released yesterday and Simon was showing them, he mentioned that you should look for a champ with Drain on their basic, and that would go really well with Guan Yu because he could be imprinted onto that champion's weapon and it could help rack up damage. It would get that 20% damage addition for anyone under Drain, that passive. So we went and looked across all of the champs we know, all of their kits. We don't know a ton of kits yet, but from what we've seen released and what we knew, we didn't find anybody else with bleed or with acid. I believe those we've not seen those before, but we did find another champion with drain. And I think that this champion might be a really good pairing with Guan Yu. So something else to take into account as we're deciding who we want to choose for our starter champ. So why? Okay, so Guan Yu has an attack on one enemy for 300% damage, and if that target is under drain, then it deals an additional 5% of the target's max HP. So that's a powerful dual multiplier, but only if the target is under drain. Okay? We know that Guan Yu is the slowest of the three starter champs, but maybe that is designed that way because his drain is designed to wear down the enemy over time, and he's not looking to be the fastest. In fact, speed might even work against him. Then on his core attack, he attacks all enemies. We know that one might reduce his cooldown on that skill. And then we get to his ultimate, where each attack has a 35% chance to place Drain 2 on the target for 2 turns. And he gains 100 divinity whenever he defeats an enemy. Once he gets 1,000 divinity, he uses this, and he can place he hits 4 times, placing a Drain 2 with a 35% chance every time that's unscrolled. So we know all this. This is known. Let's go real quick to our favorite website for the game, Ragewood Gaming. We went here under Aru, the faction, and we are looking at Anubis, the Shepherd of Shadows, And why are we doing that, you would ask? Well, Anubis is a very tanky, high HP, solid defense, good res, like high res, but 95 speed, pretty quick. A tanky support champion, right? And then where do we get the interesting stuff? So his basic puts a fear, his core puts a corrupt, but his ultimate puts a drain 2 for 2 turns. So looking at Anubis's ultimate, attack all enemies. So an AoE that places drain, right? Just like Simon mentioned, it has, and also on top of that, Anubis has a great dual multiplier in and of himself with attack and HP. So he's going to be very tanky and have good attack and be fairly quick just off his base stats. And he has a 35% chance to place Drain 2 for 2 turns and repeats this attack on any enemies with less than 50% divinity. So perhaps a third member of this team might reduce the enemy's divinity levels, and then Anubis and Guan Yu are going to just continue to stack up drains and beat up the enemy with that. Now, in addition, Anubis also gains 200 divinity whenever an enemy dies, so there'll be an interesting balance between Anubis and Guan Yu in terms of if they were on the same team as a pairing, who would you'd want to build whose divinity. They both gain it off of killing the enemy, so that can be a little tricky, but you'd probably want to kill with the Soul Guide, which is, I believe, the basic skill. If I am guessing correctly, I believe Soul Guide is the basic skill. So you get an extra 100 divinity for killing an enemy with the basic skill, so you're going to want to do that. There's going to be a bit of a more manual process to that than simply putting it on auto, of course, to maximize the ultimate and to make sure that not only does Anubis get his ultimate and places drains, but also Guan Yu gets his ultimate, places his drains, and both of them get this synergistic increase in damage. Now, in addition to that, we can basically also surmise that Drain is not a faction-specific debuff now. That was something we thought might be the case, like Drain, Acid, and Bleed are specific to the factions. But now we see an Aru champion with Drain, and we see Guan Yu, a Tion champion with Drain. So I'm pretty certain that they're not faction-specific anymore. It also seems like it does not appear that Drain or Bleed or Acid are a lifesteal type mechanism in the use that we saw, where we saw Guan Yu being used by Simon. It didn't show anything adding back to his life. It just showed damage, and then now we didn't get enough gameplay to see the debuff plays damage over time, but it didn't look like a lifesteal. And here's why I don't think it is because Bleed and Acid would have to be the same thing, or else Guan Yu's kit would be just head and shoulders above the rest. So in order to keep them all fairly equal, they'd either all have to have some lifesteal component, which Bleed and Acid both could, but I'm gonna guess they don't. I think it's just a point damage. I think it's just kind of knocking down, and maybe it's how we can stack them and how that ramps up that makes it really dangerous, that we won't know until we get into using it. So we'll have to learn how many of these debuffs we can place, and then, like I said, what is the effect of stacking multiple debuffs. The next piece, or the last piece, we'll bring up in this very quick little dive here, sort of like starter heroes afterthoughts. We'd want to potentially imprint Guan Yu, his passive, on Anubis's weapon, right? Perhaps if they're not on the same team, maybe you're just using Guan Yu to put his 20% increased damage for enemies under Drain on Anubis's weapon, and then that gives him that extra 20% for his ultimate, because he's already got a dual multiplier of attack and HP, so now you're adding almost like a triple multiplier in the debuff damage going up in the passive, as well as the attack HP multipliers. Alright guys, so does this make you change your mind about what champ you would choose? I mean, of course, we're probably going to see champs with Bleed and with Acid, and we'll find other synergies such as this across other factions as we get into the game. But if you like this quick synergy spotlight, hit that thumbs up, and then while you're there, just move 4 inches left and hit the subscribe, because heck, you're on a roll, why not? Why not just click the drop down arrow and select all so you don't miss any of these juicy Godforge leaks? That's all for now, folks. Thanks for stopping by. Take care of yourself, and remember, play smarter.